Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where our purpose is to help create a better future. Learn from our world's experts how to improve your organization sustainably. Learn how to achieve and sustain an excellence journey for yourself, others, and the planet.
And I'm your host, Brad Jevons, coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. We are proudly brought to you in association with SA Partners, a world-leading business transformation consultancy. SA Partners are a truly purposeful company focused on helping organisations achieve sustainable improvement for themselves, others, and the planet. Welcome to episode 55 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast. I'm so pleased to welcome back Mr. Michael Bremmer to the second episode of this two-part series on Michael's background and his book, How to Do a Gemba Walk, a Leader's Guide. In the first episode, we covered the topic of finding a purpose for a walk, and then also listen, look and learn during a walk. Today we're going to cover experimentation and also evaluation further. Let's get into the episode. Michael, thank you so much for joining us again.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Michael, at the end of the first episode, you mentioned that a Gemba walk is like an experiment. I found that a very powerful statement. Do you mind unpacking that a bit further for us?
Well, especially early on when you're getting to do this, but even me, when I do walks now, I mean, I do a lot of volunteer work with the Association of Manufacturing Excellence. And one of the perks that I enjoy as a result of being in that position of power is when we have an organization that's applying for the Excellence Award, I put together the assessment teams that are going to be going out to the various sites. And so one of the things I've been doing over the last several years, I mean, sometimes I'll lead a team, but I usually go in as a team member. I don't go in as the team lead. And some of the assessors found that really a tad awkward at first, but I've done it enough times now that, I'm not trying to undercut anyone when we do this. And there's more trust there. I don't think they didn't trust me before, but there's more trust there now. Well, what I get to do is I get to observe then all these people with this phenomenal experience doing, in this instance, an assessment walk of going through. And every day when we do that, so we're at a site, and at the end of the day, we have a debrief about what was it that happened that day. What did we learn? What did we see? And what we want to do the next day then is we want to make some changes to the process of what it is that's going on. The other thing for that type of a thing, for an assessment for me, if I was, let's say this one time I went out there and I'm looking at policy deployment and people engagement. Another time that I'm doing a walk, maybe I want to focus on the safety and environmental practices. I want to dig more deeply into the operations aspect or the new product development aspect of what it is that's going on, so that I'm learning to observe in different areas of an overall business, as I do this. And once I've done enough of those, then I can start to string it together to I think better understand how the overall should be looking and working. Let's go back to the first line supervisor that's doing this, and the idea that it's an experiment. I mean, we're usually pressured. There's time pressures for everybody, maybe more so today, but 3 years ago, everybody felt they didn't have enough time then also. So it's a little bit worse. It certainly is a little bit crazier. And COVID has made for some big challenges. But I'm running this, I'm doing these walks. Well, and maybe I'm probably doing these walks by myself. So what can I do if I want to improve the way I'm doing the walk? Well, I invite another supervisor to go with me and watch me do my walk. I invite my manager to come in, to both for the manager to be able to see what it is that we're doing and to coach me on what it is that I can be doing to do this more effectively. What was observed that I did well? What was observed that I could, do better? I should do this at least once a year. Maybe a couple times a year, but just, you don't want to do this monthly. Even quarterly might be too much, but twice a year, once a year to have somebody come in and observe, because we fall into these habits and it starts to become automatic. And what I want to do is step back from that automatic activity that it is that I'm doing and take it up a notch. And I think an easy way to do that is just to have a buddy experiment with you. I can also, in the spirit of an experimentation, when I'm meeting with my team, there's this tool that anybody that's done facilitation is familiar with. It's called a keep, stop, start. You just do it with 2x2 Post-it notes.
Yeah.
And so get feedback from my team. So I want to do these Gemba walks. I'm trying to help all of us, understand our job, whatever our purpose is that we've defined for doing these walks. Here's the purpose. People have agreed that that's a good purpose because we talked about that, when we created the purpose. Well, tell me what I should keep doing that's helping me to fulfill this purpose in our team to fulfill our purpose effectively. Is there something I should stop doing? Is there something I should start doing that I'm not doing? And so just finding some simple ways to get feedback, then you keep it fresher because you realize that there isn't just one rigid way to do this. And then from an organizational perspective, as I go up the line, I would like for some of those folks to be out observing the people down in the organization, they're doing their walk. Is there a best practice? Are there a couple of people here that really have got a best practice for doing these walks? And if they do, then how do we spread those best practices so that more of us do walks like the people that do walks in the best way possible? And then the organization itself, what should we keep doing? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing as time goes by to continue to keep these things fresh, to continue to keep these things relevant? Because there's a tendency for them to get stale, as time goes by, because we're doing the same old thing in the same old way.
Michael, that's powerful. It's like a retrospective, with your buddy or your leader you're doing a walk with. You can do the old keep, stop, start and really get that strong evaluation back. Michael, we've covered the, defining the purpose of the walk, listen, look, learn, and then evaluation, and we've gone through that buddy style system. But what about in the case where you're walking by yourself? Like if you were to walk by yourself, how would evaluate look? What would you do?
I try to hold myself to a pretty high standard. So even like I was at a company last year, just before COVID stuff exploded, that is an organization that's highly effective and improving. I visited them a number of times over the years. I've got a high degree of respect for this organization and the leaders that are there. But if I'm doing a walk, I'm accountable for seeing something that's meaningful. I've got to be able to give them not a solution, because I don't know enough to give them a solution because I'm not there every day. I've got observations and I've got questions. And so if I've done a walk and I haven't seen I don't think I've observed anything at all that was substantive, then I did not do a good walk, because there's always something. And so it's funny, the first couple of times I started going to these organizations that were really, really good, I was scared as hell to go do that, because I was thinking, Jesus, what do I have that good? I could teach somebody that's this good. But I've had a couple of experiences since then. And even in those organizations, there's things you see. And it's funny, the thing that I did with this last organization is I felt they had moved to that space of where they were operating on automatic. And so because they were going through this stuff so fast, what it was, and again, they're doing great stuff and they're doing great listening. And I mean, this thing, it's an 80 out of the total possible points. This is in the 80th percentile somewhere, which is very high. So it's very good. But even so, where they're at, there were some things that I observed that it looked like they were operating more on automatic without the reflection that they're so comfortable with their systems. And so I challenged them, and they wrote back to me a week later and said that they thought that was right, that they really did need to go back through and slow down a little bit and see what it was that was going on. So for me, I'm holding myself accountable at the end to have 2 or 3 observations that I think are worth asking a couple of questions on, and not some piece of minutia. I mean, some 5S thing was it's got to be meaningful.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a bunch of nit stuff. So yeah, I don't want to just say that I've got 3, because there's these 3 insignificant things that it is that I can find. I need to probe enough, because they're trying to get better at getting better. And so a natural question for me at the beginning, before we've ever done a walk, is what are you struggling with right now to get better at doing moving forward? And that in an organization that's highly effective in improving, I would trust that area. if it's an organization that's earlier in its journey, I would think they might not know what it is they should be focusing on. And so I want to know what it is they're focusing on, and then I want to know what it is that I see, and does what I see match up with what they said? But in the good ones, they're doing a lot of stuff good. And so I'll tell me what it is you're working on to do next, and I'll pay special attention to those areas, and then try to help them nudge it forward.
Michael, I guess if take the example of a production manager or supervisor, they would define the purpose of their walk, they'd look at the challenges or the goals of the area and understand that in relation to it, and then they would go listen, look, and learn throughout the walk. When it comes to evaluation, they'd be really thinking about, okay, what did I learn, and what can I do to help this area? What questions can I ask, what behaviours can I go about to really help them move forward? Is that correct?
I think it's correct, but where most people in that position fall down. So a question I ask whenever I go in to do a site visit for AME, and I look at leader standard work, and they're always doing a gimbal walk. And so I'll say, so you've been doing this leader standard work thing, or you've been doing this gimbal walk thing for 2 years. What is that causing you to do differently as a leader today than you were doing 2 years ago? So if you can tell me that you're doing something differently as a first line supervisor or as a supervisor of supervisors as a result of using these tools and doing these activities, then you're on the right road to getting a deeper understanding of these tools and what it is that's going on. We get trapped with the activity list. And so we're doing the activities, and we think because we're doing the activities, we're doing the gimbal walk or we're doing leader standard work. But the purpose of the primary purpose of those things isn't the activities. I got to do the activities to do the work, but that isn't the purpose. It's the same thing with a visual board. People have got these visual boards, and a question that I'll say, so you got this visual board, and the better a good visual board then has some problems that they're trying to solve that they came up with, because there's always problems, and you actually see they're progressing at some of those problems. But the really good visual boards that change the behaviors are not only focused on solving the problem, but I can see that they're also attacking the process that allowed that problem to take place, so that the problem doesn't recur again next month. And I can see that this visual board is, in the words of Mike Rother, it's moving me towards some future state. Yeah. So I've got a future state that we aspire toward being at 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is. We're aspiring toward going there, and then we're laying the infrastructure. We're putting in the plumbing to be able to get there. And so I love really what Mike did. Toyota Kata is not any, and Mike said this, it's not different than plan, do, check, act, or plan, do, check, adjust, whatever you like to call it. But he put this interesting little spin on it. But that's all it is. And but I've got this future state. So the really good boards, the purpose is to reach this future state 2 years from now. That's the purpose of all that it was that we're doing. Yeah. Well, I should be doing the same thing with the gimbal walks then. So what's the gimbal walk doing for helping me? And then after me, what's it doing to help our team change the behaviors so we can behave in a more appropriate way, moving forward in the future.
I loved how you phrased that, Michael. I can really hear the two parts to it. As a leader, what have I learned and what can I do to help improve towards the challenging, meaningful goals that we're chasing? But also, what can I do to help the team member or a leader below me to actually move forward and achieve?
Yeah, totally. It's you talked about the next book. I got this damn thing I've been working on for an embarrassingly long time, but and it will be an interesting conversation. We can have it about that, because all of my compatriots. You talked about Mark Raven. Mark's giving me lip on this. That the CEO needs to drive the improvement effort, and so you picture this shining light that's up there, and we all bask in the glow of this brilliant CEO because she's doing such a great job. And we just bask in the luminescence that's there. Well, most CEOs, if I'm doing cybersecurity, if I'm doing a new payroll system, if I'm doing a new IT, everybody wants the shining light of the CEO to shine on the thing that it is that they're doing. And we improvement folks, we want our slice of it. Most CEOs don't have enough time, don't have enough interest, and don't have enough knowledge to be that shining light for doing this. And so then reality to me is then you look at the number of first and second line supervisors we have. They touch 80% of the people that are directly. They touch 80% of the people that are inside an organization. The CEO doesn't. They do. They touch cumulatively. And so I'm more and more of the belief that we can be doing this stuff in the middle of the organization, unless I've got a highly dysfunctional leader. I've got, most leaders are average. They're okay. They're not bad. And so if I've got an average leader, I got a tremendous amount of freedom for making phenomenal improvement the way we do our work. And then part of the art is figuring out how to do that without getting into too much trouble and without, disrupting the people that are around me. But you can make a lot. Every organization I've ever been in has pockets of excellence in it. And so there's no reason that me as a middle manager, she can't create a pocket of excellence with the area that she's responsible for.
Yeah, Michael, I can vouch for that. I've seen so many organizations where, there is a leader of a team and she's doing great things and that team's achieving great things. Other teams can learn from that and grow from that without looking at anything new. And Gemba is a great way to achieve that, going to Gemba and going through the process we've been talking about on this episode so far.
I think this is the one tool, when people talk about the need for culture change and that sort of stuff, this is the one tool that people can go in and directly touch the culture of an organization. And I can do that from multiple levels. The first line supervisor can change the culture of his little work group. The plant manager, when she's going through and she's trying to see what it is that's going on, she can directly influence the culture by the way she asks questions and the way that she treats people and the respect that it is that she shows and the listening that's taking place there. And as you build the self-esteem and the confidence of the people that are there doing the work, and that doesn't mean they're going to get everything right, out of the box. They ain't. There's going to be mistakes that are along the way. But what happens when those mistakes, take place? And I'm not big on making the same mistake twice. But but as we go through there, then what are we building into the accountabilities and the process improvement so mistakes like that don't happen again? But this is one of the best tools in the world for actively changing the culture of an organization. I think more so than any of the rest.
Yeah, Michael, especially when it's done really well. I can see our conversation around the three key parts of do you have a purpose for a walk, look, listen, and learn, and then evaluation. If a leader is constantly improving and evolving that, doing the evaluation well, learning from it and going again, they'll get better and better and better. And I've heard studies before, like you mentioned, that 70% of culture comes from frontline leaders. It's a really powerful conversation area to think about. So helping our frontline leaders grow and develop through a concept like Gemba and the coaching that happens afterwards is extremely important. But Michael, what do you find stops organizations doing this? What stops them moving forward and trying to continuously improve and experiment and get better in this area of Gemba?
Well, this is one of the things I'm excited about with my volunteer work with AME. I know how long it took me to get a satisfactory understanding. And that doesn't mean all knowledgeable. That just means I started to understand of what highly effective improvement practices look like. And for a long time, I knew I didn't know enough. I wasn't satisfied with what I knew, but it just a long time. So let's say 10, 15 years. I'm not certain exactly, it depends on, I guess, where we wanted to draw the starting line. But I don't think that most people know what highly effective improvement practices look like. And so in my mind, that's the thing that inhibits us from doing a lot of the things that we talk about, because people don't believe, even though Jesus, for 20, 30 years, people have been talking about you can take 50% of the lead time out of a process. You can eliminate all this waste. People don't believe it. Just they tend to think, I think we're working hard. I think we're doing a good job. And if we just do a little bit better job next year of doing what it is that we do, life is going to be okay. And in an average organization, and when there is no major disruption taking place in the competitive field around you, that it's adequate. It's not inadequate. It's not dysfunctional. And so if you think about highly effective improvement organizations versus the rest, compare that to world-class athletes and a high school or even a college athlete who's a very good athlete. And any athlete that's, you're doing athletics in a college, on a college team, you're pretty good. But you're really far from world class. Well, most organizations are that far from world class relative to improvement effectiveness, but they don't see it, they don't realize it. And so I think the one thing that people can do if they really want to aspire to doing something radically different is find ways to open their eyes to the magnitude of improvement that's possible. And again, I'm not just saying the CEO needs to do this. I'm saying this is true of any level of the leadership, that if you want to be doing more with your team, whether it's a single team or it's a company or it's a series of companies, what can you do to change the way that it is that you change your perspective, to see what's there and to begin to get a feeling for what it is that's possible. And if you really set those goals high enough, there's phenomenal things that can happen. One of the things that frustrated me for a long time here in the US, to do a little bit of a rabbit trail on you, was the outsourcing that took place. And I am not anti-outsourcing. I am anti-stupid sourcing. And so if you want to put a plant in China because you're going to be servicing the China market, or you're going to be servicing, customers in Asia, that is totally fine. But when you were sourcing stuff, and I wrote about this back in 2010, so this isn't some COVID insight that I had. If you outsource what you make halfway around the world, and then you're bringing it all the way back here to the States to sell it, or in Australia if you're sending it up to the Northern Hemisphere, and bringing it back down south. And I realized that market's smaller, but what you're doing is you're removing jobs from your local economy. And if you just do that in your company, Brad, it's not a problem. But if you do it and I do it and the other 10 people in this block do it with the companies that they own, you begin to affect the community. And you take away the jobs that are in that community, and you take away the ability of people to buy the stuff that it is that I'm taking away the ability for you to sell your stuff by the fact that my people are now working at Burger King or Walmart or whatever. And I was frustrated with Walmart. I wrote about Walmart back in 2010 because they drove a lot of outsourcing out of this country for, relatively inexpensive products. But you're driving those things away. And so having a holistic perspective of what it is we're trying to accomplish here, and there are companies in the US that pay high wages that are the low-cost manufacturer of the thing that they make because they're so good at improving. So it's you get swayed by the labor cost, or sometimes you get swayed by difficulties of dealing with the union. You got to figure out, if you're the leader, you got to figure out how to be able to do this in a cooperative way. And sometimes you got to overcome legacy issues that are there. The easy answer is to outsource it now. And this year it's cheaper if I do that. Next year it's cheaper if I do that. But I don't think it's cheaper 10 years from now. And it certainly isn't cheaper when a quality problem comes up, when the other country does something to the companies that are in their country that you outsource to. And nobody had that in their outsourcing calculations. And so I wrote a big piece on that back in 2010 because it was driving me crazy.
Yeah, Michael, a lot of organisations over the time too haven't considered the cost of supply chain, the cost of warehousing, and a lot of these below-the-line costs. Also, the environmental impact has been missed in many regards, although that's becoming less and less now. Michael, so what you're saying is that really you got to help a leader gain an insight, get an aha moment, which you were fortunate to achieve via Deming and many like those, which is just truly amazing. The key is, how do you create that constant desire to keep learning, that constant evolution of defining a purpose for a walk, go look, listen, learn, and then come back and evaluate, learn from that, evaluate, and go forward?
Well, it really is. I mean, so I started in the days of total quality management. That was a popular improvement methodology. And you probably couldn't name a 3-letter improvement methodology that I've not done over the last 40 years. But the neat thing about each methodology that becomes popular is it provides a new perspective, it provides a new insight. But when you look at the methodologies we use, 70% of the tools are the same to all of these methodologies. 70% of these tools are traditional industrial engineering tools that were used 100 years ago We use them in a radically different way today. And so when people say it's not about the tools, it is not about the tools. It is. I mean, the tools are good. And if you're using the right tool in the right situation, you're going to get good stuff from the tools, because the tools are very, very, a saw cuts a board, a hammer puts in a nail, a screwdriver, especially an automated, a drill. I mean, it puts in screws. And so we use these tools. They're great, but the tool doesn't tell me what the house should be designed like, or what it's going to be like to live in this house. And so if I want to be doing this, in a holistic way, I've got to be thinking about who is it that, am I attracting, retired couples? Am I attracting families? Am I going to have a diversified community, or do I just want this thing to be all homogenous with a bunch of people that are all alike? Or, what is it that's going on? What is it that we're trying to build here? And I think taking a holistic perspective for what it is that we're trying to do here. And the thing I love about diversity, and I think the artificial intelligence algorithms are proof of the importance of diversity, is that I can get different ideas from people that have different experiences. And so it doesn't really matter if, one of my things that knocked the socks off me learning things was from a woman that might have had a high school degree, working in an assembly line in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I was, to me, TPS at that point in time was Kaizen teams. This is in the mid 90s. And so we did this Kaizen team, and we presented to management, and it had all gone very, very well. Everybody's very, very happy. And we're back in the room, and I'm asking people, so you spent a week of your life doing this thing, what'd you get out of this investment of time? And people say real polite stuff. And I share this story a lot of times when I do a speech, because it just changed me for life. And I come to Pearlie, and Pearlie says, well, I worked for this company for 25 years. It's the first time they ever asked me to think, and I really liked it. And logically, I knew, I was good at involving my people. I was good at, teaching, bringing teams together and doing problem solving and all of that stuff. I knew logically the importance of that. I never understood the emotional cost of it. I never understood the emotional cost of not doing that. And Pearlie gave me this gift that changed my life. And because all of a sudden I understood the emotional cost that was there in an organization from not taking advantage of Pearlie and the 300 other Pearlies that are in this organization. And she changed the way that I talk to leadership teams to this day. It was just, because I tended to avoid that emotional stuff. I didn't want to go there. And I wouldn't say that Pearlie fully got me to dealing with emotional stuff. I still had work I needed to do on that for a few years to get there. But oh my God, she totally changed the way that I looked at the world. And now I could just so appreciate what this was costing us by not doing these things that intellectually it made sense to me we should be doing. And I think, oh my God, this really is important.
Isn't it amazing, Michael? You actually get like a dual gain out of this, really. You get employees at all levels of the organization having their meaningful, challenging goal. Employees going to learn from each other through Gemba. But you also get the cultural outcome that comes from the constant insights and learning and sharing and collaboration that comes out of this whole process.
Well, Steve Jobs said, I think, he was an interesting leader. Totally creative, total visionary, was not always polite to people, but was brilliant. And he appreciated a good fight, as long as you knew what the hell you were talking about. But a quote that I saw attributed to him, and I was surprised that it came from him, but I've seen it attributed there a couple of times, was that 70% of the work that people do, they're willing to do it, but 30% is optional. And that's where the treasure is. And I think that the difference between an average organization and a highly effective organization is it can tap into that 30%, where I'm getting my people to be more fully engaged. And as you do that and you get those passions, there's just brilliant things that can happen from that. And just the organization can become such a better place for everybody to be when we're operating that way. And that's the thing that keeps me interested in this, is just trying to unleash a little bit more of that happening around the world. I'm not a lean purist. my mantra is highly effective improvement practices. And I'm not U.S. centric. I want to see anybody anywhere in the world, doing this, because I think it's good. It's good for the world, for all of us to be getting better at doing this.
This all does flow into so many societal games also, doesn't it? Because we all spend so much time at work, and our emotions from work naturally will flow over to home. And if we have a positive outcome at work and a great experience, that will flow into broader society and our home life.
Bob Chapman, the CEO of Barry Waymiller, doing a similar debriefing one time, the guy, what'd you get out of it? And the guy said, well, now when I go home at night, I can talk to my wife. And so you're right, Brad. I mean, you can, it can change us as a person and make us more confident and not only a better employee, but a better individual.
Yeah, Michael, that aligns with my passion in life, creating a better future through helping organisations achieve and grow towards excellence. It's an amazing thing to be aligned with. Michael, within the Enterprise Excellence podcast now, we are doing 2-minute tips, like short, sharp snippets that people can consume quickly if they don't have time to listen to the whole podcast. But in your area of expertise, Michael, what would be your Enterprise Excellence 2-minute tip?
Well, I think what we talked about earlier is that realize that whatever you do at the outset isn't what you should be doing 2 years from now. And so if I know that I want to be doing something different and something better 2 years from now, I need to start, what's the groundwork that I need to lay now so that I can measure the effectiveness of the experiment. So we've got an improvement experiment we're going to do. How am I going to assess if that is working well? And in putting that framework together, I don't want to be the sole source of coming up with the framework. I want to bounce this idea off of different levels of people within my team, if I'm just running a team, or in an organization at different levels of the organization, and bouncing that across my peers. And then I would be sharing it. If I was a CEO, I would be sharing what we're doing with other CEOs, especially those that I respect, and saying, here's how we're thinking about going about this. Do you have any other thoughts of things we should be thinking? So right from the get-go, I'm trying to change my perspective of what's the best way for us to be able to, to go about doing this. If just one addition to that, if I'm the assigned improvement resource within the organization, which many people like to do this, to give somebody, make it their specialty. So I got the continuous improvement staff. I wouldn't only be thinking about what do we need to be doing to do the improvement thing, because that's kind of the job, but I would be thinking, what are actions that I can take as a CI leader that's going to better engage my leadership team and get them more actively involved with what it is that's going on. And most people ultimately throw up their hands when they're doing that. And I'd say you can influence that the best if you can use some publicly posted visual feedback that people don't dispute the facts that are there in the board. So an first experiment is, what facts do we want on the board? And then let people see the gold and the gold stars and the red stars, where things are going well and things are not going well, and use that to start having new conversations inside the business and to slowly bring your leadership team more involved with what it is your organization's doing to improve.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're making what's most important transparent and then having the conversations around it. Michael, what's been a recent insight for you? What's been something that you've learned recently that you didn't know before?
I think I wrote this to you, but we moved from Chicago to California to be closer to grandchildren, and we're loving it. Even with COVID, we're still loving it and been able to get together. But I joined my local HOA board, a homeowners association board, and I'm a factual guy, right? I mean, I got this logical background, so I'm a factual guy. And so we're doing these Zoom meetings, and one of the homeowners was pestering us to go back to physical face-to-face meetings prior to the mass rollout of vaccinations. And so I had gathered some facts on how many people are coming to the Zoom meetings and how many people are going to the physical meetings when we used to have it. And there's at least 30% more people going to the Zoom meetings. And so this individual started to say that, well, but that's because they had no choice. And and I wanted to say, well, they had no choice when there were physical meetings. It was still a, yes or no. This is still a yes or no. But I was abrupt in trying to point this person's eyes directly at the facts. As I saw the facts, I was not engaging him. I was not giving him an opportunity for feedback. And so for me, who should know better, of slowing down and not trying to rush people to where it is I want them to be, I'm still working on that.
Yeah, Michael, I can vouch for that. I'm constantly working on that same area of challenge to improve, to take the time and work at the pace people need to work at. I can totally understand that one. Michael, how can people reach out to you if they want to connect and learn more and engage with you?
Well, I am retired, and I'm not really doing any consulting, but I'm always happy to chat with people. I'm always happy to exchange emails. And so the easiest email is my name, Michael Bremmer. And I'm also an Apple user, so I've got an old Apple address. So it's Michael Bremmer at mac.com. That's probably the easiest email address to get me. I've put together an embarrassingly simple and crude website called michaelbremmer.net. And so I'm going to look, though, at Wix that you talked about and see if I can upgrade what it is that's going on there. So there's a website, although in all honesty, I don't go back and look at it very often, but I am doing that. And I suppose the other easy way for people to get involved with me is to, I think if you do a Michael Bremer on LinkedIn, my name would come up. And that's probably the social media that I use the most these days.
Michael, thank you so much for all your knowledge, openness, sharing, and insights that you've provided us. On behalf of our listeners, it's been amazing. I know I'm going to learn more when I listen back when the episode goes live also. And just thank you so much for sharing and ultimately helping us all create a better future. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Brad. I really enjoyed this. It was great.
What a great episode. Remember, you can go to our website, enterpriseexcellencepodcast.com/downloads to get hold of a Gemba Walk template Michael has kindly provided for our listeners. You can also find the How to Do a Gemba Walk, a leadership guide, from any good bookstore. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast to help others gain insights and create a better future. There were two key takeaways for me from this episode. One, the power of creating a learning organisation and the part Gemba can play. The power of diversity in creating a learning organisation. The 3 steps to doing an effective Gemba walk Michael provided will naturally lead to a learning and improvement environment. Set a purpose for your walk, learn through what you see and the effective questions you ask, and then evaluate and take steps yourself and to support others based on your learnings from each walk. Michael also provided a great insight regarding having a companion join you on the walk, help observe your approach, and then help you evaluate the walk afterwards and learn and grow and adjust yourself. What a powerful step to take. My second key takeaway, the power of diversity in creating a learning organisation, really hit home for me during this episode. Naturally, when people of a team are diverse, they will bring differing views and thought processes. In a trusting, humble environment, this will naturally lead to everyone learning from each other and improving outcomes. Thanks again for your knowledge and insights, Michael. Thank you for helping us create a better future. Bye for now.